Springtime to me can be best described as the rush hour of the year. Here in the UK, springtime is the months of March, April and May, and that's when the wildlife comes alive and it springs into action. What we'll see is the birds that visit us in the winter are leaving, whilst birds that are going to stay here for the spring and summer are arriving. At the same time, some of our mammals like the fox and the badger will have already bred, and the young will be born, and they will be in their sets and their dens as I speak now, and the badgers and the foxes will start to get active. As the birds start to waken up, what the birds will be doing is they'll be pairing up, they'll be breeding, they'll be nest building and preparing to raise the young. So what we'll do in this video is we'll look at how to actually capture wildlife in action during the spring months, so that you can get some stunning images of wildlife at its peak as they get together, and as I say, they start to breed. And there are one or two real spectacular actions which I'm going to cover in this video of specific wildlife that we have here in the UK. So what we'll do is we'll look at springtime itself, we'll look at the sights and sounds that you're going to find during springtime, look at some birds, specific birds who do specific times at this time of the year, talk about what to me is probably the best action that you're going to get during the spring, and that's the hares. In this field here that I'm standing in at the moment, I've photographed hares in the past here. In fact, I saw some hares as I came in this morning. So let's go. Springtime also heralds the arrival of lots of migrant birds coming into the country. I did a previous video on that, and I'll leave a link for that below. But one of the sure signs that spring is here is the sound of the chiff-chaff, and it's a pretty, really recognisable sound. Once you've heard it, you'll never forget it, because it's chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, and here it is now. Top tip, plan your outings. Research your local parks and nature reserves where you're likely to see wildlife in spring. This is a fishing lake which is it's less than 2 miles from my home, and I've photographed great crested grebe here many times, and I've made 1 or 2 videos here as well. Although it can be a bit noisy because it's surrounded by 2 roads. Nature parks and reserves normally have notice boards up telling you what's around and what's about, and a great fountain of knowledge is to speak to the local park rangers who can put you on to what's happening in and around your local wildlife reserves. So get out, visit your local nature reserves, start filming and photographing spring in action. And there's a bonus. I've just seen a kingfisher come flashing past me. Beautiful day, beautiful colours. It's just great springtime. So bit of a bonus this morning, seeing a kingfisher flying low across the top of the water. Now that is spring in action, a kingfisher. The osprey. The osprey is one of the most awaited birds here in the UK each spring, summer, when they return from the wintering grounds in Africa. What will happen is, as the ospreys come into the country, they will move up through the country and they will stop off. Again, this is why it's important to know your local area. There are certain areas around here where I know that ospreys have stopped off to hunt and fish, and they've been there for a week, 2 weeks, and then they move on. So spring and autumn is often the best time to see ospreys in your local area, if you know where to look. Thing is with the osprey, they are absolutely spectacular to watch in action, as you're going to see in this short clip now. There are a number of sights and sounds that signals the imminent arrival of spring, and that it's actually arrived. Beautiful day like today. Sights such as herons. Herons are one of the first birds that we'll see nest building. If you're fortunate enough to have a heronry near where you live, then that is the ideal place to go to photograph them. And also, if you're a beginner, the heron is a fantastic subject to photograph. So try and find out if there's a heronry near you, and go and try and film them. You'll be able to actually witness them gathering sticks and building their nests, and you should be able to get some good shots, especially in flight. And I made a video on the grey heron, which again I'll leave a link to in the description below. One sound that does herald the fact that spring is just around the corner is the sound that I've been listening to over the past 10-15 minutes, and I just hope, pray that whilst I'm doing this little bit to camera that I hear again, but if not, here's the sound. And I'm sure everybody knows what that's the sound of. It's the sound of a woodpecker. Do you know which woodpecker it is? Well, actually, it's the great spotted woodpecker. And it's at this time of the year, late winter, early spring, that you'll hear great spotted woodpecker drumming away. He's doing it for two reasons. One, to mark his territory, and secondly, to try and tempt a female into the territory as well, and to look for a nest hole. So, great indicator for spring, sound of the green woodpecker. Sorry, not the green woodpecker, the great spotted woodpecker. I'm sure the green woodpecker drums at the same time of year. Top tip, the dawn chorus. Birds sing for two reasons. Firstly, to defend a territory, and secondly, to win and keep a mate. The vast majority of bird calls you'll hear are males during the dawn chorus, and it's a great spring spectacle. It's absolutely fantastic, and the best time to see it is, well, dawn. So very first thing in the morning, so you have to get up out your bed early to go and listen to it. But it's a fantastic spectacle to listen to. Top tip, spoke about the dawn chorus, spoke about one or two other birds. What's really important about the dawn chorus is firstly enjoying it, but secondly is giving yourself that challenge of actually being able to recognise the calls themselves. I've mentioned this a couple of times in videos that I've done before about the Merlin app. It's an absolutely fantastic little app, and it's completely free. And you can download it onto your phone, and when you go out and you're listening to the dawn chorus, if you turn on the Merlin app, it'll tell you exactly what birds are about. So, top tip, do yourself a favour, download the Merlin app and start learning bird calls. It's a great skill to have as a wildlife and bird photographer. One of the most spectacular sights that you can witness of spring in action is the great crested grebe and what's known as the weed dance. It's that time of year when they start coming out of the winter plumage into their beautiful summer coats that they start to meet up and pair up, and they perform what's known as the weed dance, and I'll take you through that. To begin with, the pair are quite vocal. Once they meet each other, they then start preening and cleaning themselves and get more attracted to the mates, and then they'll start bobbing their heads up and down, shaking their heads side to side. The weed dance then follows, and I'll go through that with you step by step. I liken the great crested weed dance to be just like any other normal dance, and I call it the 5-step because there are 5 steps to the grebes meeting each other, coming together and actually performing the dance, and I'll take you through each of them step by step. So step number 1 is the meet and the greet. So what will happen is that the birds will start being vocal, calling each other, and they'll come together on the water. The next step, step 2, is where they start preening. And what they'll do is they'll then start cleaning themselves in the water, parallel, side by side. Step 2, preening. We then move on to step 3, which is the head shaking. And this is where the grebes will meet up, and then they'll start bobbing their heads up and down, shaking their heads side to side, head shaking. That's step 3. Step 4 is where you will actually see the grebes diving. And what they're doing is they're diving underwater to collect weed, which then in step 5, which is the weed dance, all of a sudden the grebes will come out of the water, they'll come together, it's like they're standing up in the water, and they'll start shaking their heads together with the weed in their bills. The weed dance, it's a spectacular sight to see in springtime. Now, the grebes will often do steps 1 to 4, but they won't finish it off with the weed dance. So you really need to understand steps 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And you've got to follow them in sequence. If you follow them in sequence, you can get ready for that spectacular coming together and coming out of the water, which is the culmination of the weed dance.
Been spending all your time lifting me up. All of the things I've been worrying seem to be disappearing now, reminding me what days should be made of. Sunshine betting on a good time. I've been chasing butterflies all afternoon. Night drives cruising on the Hatley, spending all of my time kicking with you, honey, with you. Ooh, honey, with you. Oh. We're on a coaster, we're on a cloud. Hands in the
Okay, what I want to do now is just take a little time out to give you a look forward to another project that I'm working on called Summertime Specials. It's the second in this series of wildlife in the UK throughout the seasons. Look forward to Summertime Specials from Hatley Photography later in the year. Top tip for April. The top tip for April is that April really heralds the beginning of what I call the butterfly season. It's when we really first start to see a number of butterflies that have emerged from the winter chrysalises and they begin to become active. And one of those butterflies is absolutely fantastic to photograph is the comma butterfly. So think about in April, nice sunny day, think about butterflies and go out, try find them and photograph them. Now I've done a video on how to photograph butterflies now, again I'll leave a link for that below. But it's a great time of year to start thinking about photographing butterflies if you're into photographing butterflies, which is a real challenge, believe you me, it's a real challenge, it really tests your skill. So there's a challenge for you in April, start thinking about photographing butterflies. Springtime heralds the emergence of some of our bigger mammals as they've already have paired up, they'll have bred, their young will have been born and they'll be in their sets and in their dens, and that's the badgers and the foxes. Because they've got young, they're going to get more active as the evenings get longer, as we have more daylight during the springtime. One of the greatest spectacles that we'll get during the spring is the European hare, or the European brown hare, and they really do spring into action when it comes to them pairing up, and it culminates in what's known as boxing. And I want to briefly cover that. I did a video on it, and I've also done a video on how to photograph hares, and I'll leave links for them down below. However, what I want to do is just briefly explain to you what happens with the hares and how they go about it. Now, I'm sure you've all heard the term the Mad March hare. Is it fact or is it a myth? Well, actually it's a bit of a myth, because hares will box at virtually any time of the year. The reason that it's called the Mad March hare is because during March the levels of testosterone that are in the bucks, which are the male hares, are at their highest, so they're most active during during March. And why it's also a great time to photograph hares is, as you can see in this field here, the vegetation is very low, so the hares are very prominent, they really do stick out, and it's a great time of year to actually photograph them. And the best time of day to photograph hares is either first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening, and this time of year the evenings are beginning to be that little bit longer, so you get more opportunities to get out and actually photograph them. Many people actually believe it's the male hare who starts the boxing, when actually it's not. It's not the bucks, it's actually the does, which is the name given to the female hare. They're the ones that actually start the boxing. And what I'll do now is I'll just explain to you how they actually get to the boxing stage. And I explain it in what I call 3 rounds. So it's all about boxing. So round one is what I call the gathering. And what you'll see begin to happen is you'll see a number of hares coming together or gathering. It can just be 2, 3, but it can go up as much as a dozen hares. I call it the gathering, which is round 1, where the hares will come together. Round 2 is where you'll begin to see a number of the bucks start to pester the does. And what they'll do is they'll actually go up to them, they'll start sniffing them, touching them, bothering them, and then what will happen is that the doe will take off. You have the chase, and that's what round 2 is all about, the chase. So round 1 was the gathering together, and round 2 is the chase, round 3 is the boxing, and this is where the female has had enough of the males pestering her, chasing her, following her, and she's just had enough, and she just turns around and she just has a go at the nearest buck that's near her, and that's when the boxing starts. Top tip for May. In May, at the beginning of May, sees the arrival of one of the fastest birds that we have here in the UK, and that's the swift. And the swift, in parallel flight, can reach up to speeds of 70 miles an hour, and that makes them a real challenge to photograph. So if you want to set yourself a challenge, the swift's call is unmistakable. It's a very high-pitched screeching sound. Once you've heard it, you'll never forget that, and you'll often hear swifts before you see them, but as I said, they are a real challenge, and that's what wildlife photography is all about. It's the challenges that we set ourselves. Set yourself that challenge in May, listen out for the swifts, go try find them and try photograph them. Fantastic birds. Okay, what I want to do now is just leave you with some of my favourite images of wildlife that I've taken here in the UK. Cute in the background, I think you can hear it, in action. And I hope that you enjoy them. Okay, thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and wildlife photography during the springtime and spring into action. I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as I always do filming these videos. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I just absolutely love doing this and sharing my experiences of wildlife here in the UK with others all around the world. All I would ask is that if you've liked it, could you hit the like button? Could also ask you to subscribe to the channel, Kevin Hatley Photography, and by liking and subscribing to the channel, what you're doing is you're helping me to grow the channel and you're helping me to get it out there to more people and share the experiences that I have here in the UK with our wonderful wildlife. So, until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.